Forbes India Small Business Summit, presented by PhonePe Payment Gateway.
Small, smart, sustainable, that's our panel topic. And let's address the elephant in the room first. In order to be small, smart, and sustainable, we have to talk about the most common problem that is, that all small scale businesses have faced and still face is of credit, Ankit. And I want to ask you this, what are the main reasons that MSMEs struggle to access formal credit despite their significant contribution to the economy?
Let me start by saying that the situation has changed significantly in the last few years.
Yes, it's changing, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of that has to do with the way, if you see the money flow that happens in the SME segment, the customers typically would pay cash to the SME. Think of a small kirana store that would exist earlier. You would purchase from them in cash. They would be paying their suppliers in cash. And the entire chain, right? There would be hardly any formal record of the transaction having taken place. And any creditor, when they need to lend money, the one thing that they need to know is how your cash flows are, how your business is doing. And the poor kirana store would have no formal way of sort of establishing their credentials. What has changed today is, and among other things, thanks to digital payments, there is now a record of transactions, right? I mean, the history that the kirana store owner has on their app of having received money is a great way for them to establish the source of funds, establish how their business is doing. And that's really allowing creditors to be able to leverage that information and be able to lend them. And there's an entire chain that's happening.
That shows their credibility.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I think a lot of that is changing today. I think there is still a lot to go in this direction. And I think a lot of the fintechs that you're seeing across the country are working towards formalizing this sector, being able to lend them, whether it's small scale loans. So a lot of the fintechs are actually working, and I think you will see this changing as we go along.
Absolutely. A lot of fintechs surely are working on that. Let me talk to Pradeep now. You just raised $10 million in Series B funding by Avishkar Group. So, funds are coming in easy now. Like Ankit also mentioned, it's changing right now. But if you could throw some light on the financial support mechanisms that are available to SMEs for their digital transformation, and how can they better leverage them?
In terms of at least first tapping into what we've done so far, we've always tapped into sort of the equity capital markets, where we've raised capital from venture capital funds, right from seed stage to Series B. I can tell you it's not come in easy, to be honest. I think a lot more questions sort of come in every time you bring in a new investor. But beyond that, like Vishalji rightly said, what they bring to the table in terms of knowledge of having seen so many journeys across, sort of having seen the journeys of Mama, Urban Company, etc. That really helps us. Also, they help us unlock what is the true potential of a business and the founding teams. I think that's where we've seen at least the venture capitalists come in and really nudge us, Shruti, right? The second has been, while there are some gray hairs now, we're getting a little bit more wiser on saying what needs to be funded with what. So a lot of the capex, etc., we tend to now use equity capital for. Whereas when it comes to working capital needs, I think there are a lot of sort of different schemes. And Srijit just, sort of helped me understand that there are schemes from CGT, SME, etc., wherein you can use that to really fund the working capital. Having said that, it's also sort of what I like to say is the entrepreneur's vision, ambition. And sometimes we do all tend to sort of use equity capital to fund what should rightfully be done through debt. Because we tend to undervalue the equity a little bit in the beginning, saying, hey, what is 100% of a $0 company, right? Yeah. But over a period of time, you realize that, and we're in that journey now of realizing that a bit, and that's when we can tap into it. But one last thing is around, if we were to build an online business in the past, right, it would be near impossible to sort of do. But when we run our D2C business, we collect payments from customers quite immediately. We get paid T+1, T+2, and that really funds the inventory and working capital needs. So that in some sense is also some amount of sort of working capital there, which, the government at its highest level is pushing for startups, which helps us, a lot of the new age companies compete against sort of legacy businesses. And that is the customer's money that really funds the business in that sense. So that's broadly how at least we look at it.
Very well put. Very well put. Let me talk about Farm Easy. It's an online drug marketplace, as we all know. Harsh, if you could throw some light on your digital strategy, and then, of course, tell us how should Maharashtra's SMEs, how should they develop a comprehensive digital transformation strategy?
So, of course, I think medicine delivery is something which most of us in this room are aware of. But I think we work with almost 1 lakh plus pharmacies in the country. I think the key point has been how do you enable them, right? So, right from inventory management to small processes. Because if they have to truly be on any online marketplace, the first thing is I should know what that pharmacy stocks. So I think we did a lot of legwork over the years to kind of ensure that technology changes, be it installing small ERP systems, even computers for that matter, right? And of course, then you have new age digital payments, all of that, right? So to work across 1 lakh farm, because in India, I think every 200 kilometers it changes. If you do not work with everyone and each and every stakeholder, it's not good. You will not be able to build a $1 billion organization or a company. I think on your second question, the most important thing which I feel in any digital transformation is the mindset of collaboration. I think the legacy businesses always feel that this is competition, ye hamara business ko le jayenge. I think in today's age, new age companies have succeeded because, like for me, PhonePe is not competition, right? It's collaboration. So I think the moment you start using small tools, be it as simple as your HR management to payments to operations to on business, like people say, oh, we should not list on online platforms, we should boycott them. I think we should figure a way out to collaborate and work with them. And I think there are players who are doing that because if each stakeholder is okay to adopt the digital strategy, I think then it'll happen. So I think that's the big one-line message if I have to send
And
that.
also, Harsh, you had to deal with a lot of, you had to build that trust in consumers because you created this whole category that was unheard of. And I remember covering it. And, like people were like, how can we buy? I hope they're selling authentic medicines. So not just your processes, your technology, your execution had to be smooth, but you also had to build a lot of trust in consumers.
Absolutely. I think so. I tell everyone medicine delivery is the most complex
Yeah.
process because unlike a Pepsi Coke, I need to deliver what you want, right? So it's a cumbersome process. So we in fact install a lot of behavioral change in the consumers, right from prescription. You have to upload a prescription. Doctor will call you if the prescription is not correct. So it's a fair more awareness, and I think which is where most of our campaigns, I think we were the first guys to break out the clutter. Historically, healthcare was boring, or people were saying it has to be stressful. I think I hope most of you guys remember, but we break that and kind of did something out of the box there. And I think beyond that, how do you ensure barcoding, inventory? And again, technology plays a role, right? So all our warehouses are 100% barcoded. You can track and trace, which were basic things, but I think which really helped us build consumer trust. Even today on the app, you have 100% visibility, what time, how do you get that? I think that's a 100% iterative process, and I think we're just getting started. We're maybe 2% there, 1% there.
All right, picking up from what you just said, Amit, tell us how can MSMEs really prioritize digital initiatives that provide maximum business value? Because today you have a choice of plenty. What works for you? How do you decide that? And how have you been able to do that at Soulflower?
Namaskar, Punekarannu. Thanks for having me here. I think the first question is for company like me, which has been bootstrapped for years now, 24 years. What matters and who matters? What matters is definitely business, money, but who matters is people. Be it customers, be it myself, be it my team, everybody. At Soulflower, the core thing for us is to understand our customer well. And we know our customer so deeply, sometimes if let's say Vishal is my customer and Aditi, his wife, wants to know more about Vishal, I can actually tell Aditi that what all Vishal can be doing because, that is what the power of digital is. What we do is, people do data analytics, people do consumer analytics. We do slightly something different. We do star sign analytics of our customers. And the star sign is nothing, just महीने में आपका जन्म हुआ है, the month you are born in, whatever is that star sign, we pick it up, we pick up people in that star signs, and we look at behaviors. Something very interesting for us. Virgos are my number one customers, if there is any Virgo here. So Virgos are my best customers, followed by Cancerians, then Scorpions.
Here you go.
Oh.
Third. And a third.
And the most important customers for me, Capricorns, who are my word of mouth, they are mother of my brand. They actually take my product and they keep on talking to the consumer. So I have to make sure that can I keep my Capricorn customers happier. So, might be some partiality there, but that is how it works. So I think that is the core when you look at digital transformation anywhere. I think business is core, but most important is how to use that digital to get advantage, which
Correct.
other large companies might not have. Unilever might have tough time to do this kind of analysis, but
Yeah.
because we are a B2C company in retail and we have some amazing partners, it becomes easy for us to understand our customers. So that is something which I believe people can think about how can they do digital
Yes.
analysis.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you so much for sharing that story. And similarly, Srijit, same question. Talk to us about the digital tools and technologies that you've used at True Elements to improve efficiencies, bring down operational costs, and thereby increase revenues. And, again, how do MSMEs use these tools to improve their efficiencies?
So probably we did the wrong way. So first, because this was my fourth startup, 3 screw-ups and 4th startup. So we had tech team
Fourth's
there.
the charm.
Yeah. So we had a tech team, so we built the whole tools up. So everybody out there are so many free tools available there, whether it is as simple as task management or everything is out there. Freemium is the model out there. So I think most of us know, but only thing is that we are averse to experiment with it in the beginning. Probably freemium helps there. And for each problem, there are 100 tools out there. The problem right now everybody faces which one to choose, right? Which one is the best for you? For example, it's as simple as note maker. I am on my 3rd note, from Evernote to Upnote to be a mood, right? So there are tools for every problem. In specific to I am from the food. So the biggest challenge we had was traceability in food, right? So traceability is important because someday after 1 year, some customer faces some issue with the product. I need to know which raw material. So when we started, we didn't know that there are tools available and whatever we knew for ERP or SAP. So we thought, let's build it. Okay. Stupidity, looking back. But that 7 years back, we did it for SMEs out there. Explore for free tools, whether it is apps or stuff out there, and go by the reviews. Reviews are go by the reviews in app stores and write the problem. And I think Microsoft is helping us putting it all together at one place. So seek for tools, and I don't think there is one magic wand for all your problems. So
All right. Okay. Janvi, let me quickly go across to you. You're what, the 4th generation of Chitale Bandhu Mithai Wale. Talk to us about the challenges MSMEs really face in adopting new technologies and how can they, of course, overcome those? And how have you at, Chitale's managed to do it and how?
So I think that if I want to talk about the obstacles, I can broadly classify them into 3 different areas. So the first, I think, is most MSMEs usually have a lot of legacy systems and workflows. And when they try to integrate it with new technology, it becomes difficult for them to incorporate it properly. And that sometimes can be very challenging. The second part I feel is that even today, when a lot of softwares are available freely, MSMEs who are non-technical still feel that investing into technology is a cost center. It is not going to directly affect my top line. So it's difficult for them to calculate the ROI, and that is why they become very hesitant in terms of investing in it. And thirdly, I feel that there is a big resistance to change. Yeah. So it is just human nature. Anywhere you're trying to change, you're going to find resistance, and it might be because of various reasons. Some people might feel that using technology, you're going to automate things, and maybe their jobs become redundant.
Yeah, that's the big fear.
Yes. Or I think one more fear is that people are not exposed to technical solutions, so they have a fear of adopting to it if something new comes in. And in this particular phase, we did have it at Chittai Bandhu as well. So what we realized is that we had to take everybody into confidence, try to tell them why we are putting in the systems, how it is going to help them in their day-to-day work, and also training them properly in the new technology was very crucial. Once we did that, and once people started to realize that their day-to-day jobs are becoming more qualitative as against quantitative, they realized the importance of technology and the resistance became low. I also feel that when you're trying to introduce technology, you don't need to do it in one go. So you can have a tech timeline which might run parallelly with your company roadmap that you've built. And according to that, you can slowly start incorporating it at crucial milestones. this can help you accelerate very quickly. So I think what I would say is that use all the free softwares that are available, go to the SaaS models. It is as much as investing for one good resource salary, and it is definitely going to give you multifold returns in terms of your revenue.
All right, thank you for sharing that. I want to bring up our point you mentioned that was about collaborations. And Ankit, I want to understand from you what is the importance of collaborations between MSMEs and digital service providers to foster this innovation and accelerate digital adoption across the MSME sector?
I think four broad points that I would talk about. And let me start with something that's going to be very counterintuitive. And while we're talking digital, I think one of the things that we miss out is even though we are going digital, it's very, very important, especially in the SME segment, MSME segment, to still have that personal touch, the reach out, right? And while we've all been talking, and I know in the previous panel as well, we spoke about chatbots and all, but for someone like us, we've realized that we cater to a very large segment of SMEs. And while we have a lot of digital tools that, on the support side, for example, there are chatbots, there are IVRs, but still, eventually the customer, and especially in the SME segment, wants to talk to a human, right? There needs to be a human interface. So eventually you need to be able to give them that, right? For anyone who's out there working in that segment, you need to be able to give them that optionality of being able to reach out to a human interface. And that definitely helps when you are, especially in your growing years, right? It's very important to be able to put a face to the name. So I think that's one. The second is product innovation. So for companies like us, it's very important that we are not catering only to the large enterprises. When we are working with SMEs, there's a lot that we do to be able to simplify our products, right? We understand that SMEs don't have large tech teams, don't have large support teams to be able to do integrations, to maintain their tech stacks. So what we do is we are constantly working to simplify and almost make it modular to be able to integrate a payment gateway. So I think it's very important for enablers, digital providers to be able to break it down in such a way that it's easy for SMEs to adopt. The third would be pricing, and I think this is something that's often ignored. It's important for enablers, for those working in the digital space, to allow pricing models to adapt to an SME. And I think SaaS companies have done this very well. And I think we were talking about freemium earlier, and I think that's brilliant, right? I mean, if you are in that space, don't forget to have a freemium model. It allows SMEs to be able to at least test your product, see how it works, and then as you grow, they will grow, right? And vice versa. So I think it's very important from that perspective to be able to have a pricing model that allows it. You shouldn't have pricing as a barrier to entry, right? And I think that's what we've been trying. So for example, our pricing is, a standard fee, but what we have done is we run offers which says, hey, up to a certain processing value, we will not charge you. Because I think it's important. You have so many other things to worry about. The last thing I want you to worry about is, I can't accept payments because it's very expensive. So I think pricing is the third one. And finally, I think access to networking. And I think events like these are so important for SMEs to come together, to talk to us about their problems, to hear from people who've been successful, who've had their share of challenges, to understand what's worked, what's not worked. And I think it's a prerogative for those who are on the enabling side to be able to give them access to these networking events, to give them access to the best practices, to give them access to entrepreneurs, third generation, first generation, fourth generation, to be able to hear what has worked and what's not.
Absolutely. Wonderfully put, Ankit. I want to go back to something that Janvi was talking about, that how, you had to kind of train your employees and, make them understand that this was for their betterment and it'll only bring in efficiency and they're not going to lose their jobs. But Pradeep, I want to understand this from you, that, adoption of new technologies and training employees with these upgradations are not just difficult, it's costly, especially for a manufacturing business, where the scope is not just in terms of software, but it's in terms of production units as well. So how can small businesses smartly upskill their employees to stay ahead of the curve? Something that you could tell us from your own organization.
Yeah, no. So I think at our organization, Shruti, there are a lot more younger people, right? So they are a lot more.
They know it all.
No, that brings a different challenge actually, and I'll come to that, right? They're very comfortable with technology, but their expectation of a UI UX from a SaaS tool is far higher because they've gone through using WhatsApp, Instagram. They're used to sort of say now ordering a Zook bag in 16 minutes, right? Like you do things, pays, product comes in 16 minutes, right? So when a SaaS tool comes and a B2B startup, and I think abroad people have done a good job, and in India I think a lot of the SaaS tools are now adopting those sort of criterias to say it's important that the user is comfortable with it and not just that the pricing will be the cheapest, right? So that I think is the biggest one. The second one is also, I do believe that in manufacturing teams, because there's so much of processing that has to happen, like imagine PO, e-way bill, delivery challan, GRN, all of that has to happen. So you don't want a smart person who should ideally be, looking at 1% improvement each week, actually spending 60-70% of their time doing all of that. So the realization from a company point of view and from sort of entrepreneurs point of view is to realize that you're paying them to do sort of a lot of the bookkeeping work, which you can sort of give it away and pay for a SaaS tool like she rightly said, right? But if tools also sort of adopt towards a comfortable UI UX system, then I think ideal training is no training required to sort of use the tool. I mean, when was the last time somebody trained us how to use WhatsApp? I had to train my mom, and then my mom trained my dad to use WhatsApp. Now they train me on, hey, ye naya aaya hai, what is this?
WhatsApp
Right?
itself is training us every month. Yeah, true. Finally, I want to come to the last topic on the panel, which is, sustainable development. And there is an urgent need to kind of adopt green technologies to lead us on a path of sustainable development. How can digital technologies, help MSMEs in Maharashtra and Pan India adopt sustainable business practices? How are you doing at PharmEasy?
So I think simple things, right? I think firstly, any retail business today, I think we're moving away from paper, right? I think that's a basic ask. I think today's new age consumer is very, very conscious. Now the first thing is what do? You go to a movie also, they say we'll just give an invoice on e-bill, right? I think a lot of companies are doing it. The traditional businesses still feel, oh, stamp marna chahiye. That's the only proof of collection of money. I think the entire collection, receivable, all of that, right? A very simple example, but goes a long way back. I think even in packaging, right from what you're using, be it internal packaging, any external consumer packaging, how can you use new age? Again, you don't need to procure it. If you don't know, there are platforms available out there. Just go out there, procure it from a vendor. Cheapest sources. I think the moment you start thinking pan-India, I think the kind of technologies or the solutions available, right? And you don't need to solve everything on day one, right? Even on logistics, people are investing. We have a massive EV fleet, right? Now that's one is of course environment. I think from a business perspective also it makes a whole lot of sense. So you are doing sustainable, but there is I think a solid business case to be made of why certain businesses need to operate in a certain way. And these are simple examples which any business can deploy from tomorrow. You don't need to do anything on the sustainable development goals at a very path-breaking level, right? So I think that's the at least high-level concept.
All right, one final question, and this is for all of you. What emerging digital trends should MSMEs be prepared for in the next 5 to 10 years? Srijit, would you like to go first? We'll start from there.
There is a difference between MSMEs and startups. We celebrate startups. There's a Shark Tank there. Everybody talks about that. Okay. Now, in the quest of MSMEs becoming Shark Tanks or startups, what's happening is MSMEs is what, and let me not go and spend time on defining what it is, but what's happening is the failure rate at MSMEs, let's say 70% is what it does. At startups is 93%. We don't want the 70 guys going to 93. Correct. Right? So let's leave them there. Okay. Let's not make they have those strengths which we are in a different path, right? So if we use our methodology on them, they will neither become us or they will lose their identity, right? So everybody has to be treated differently. There can't be one book. Probably that's a journey because we didn't have this startup wave 5 years back. Now it's there. 7 years, MSMEs has to be, let's say, protected and kept. Otherwise, they will become, I don't know what to define that. Okay. That's what I would leave it.
Go ahead, Raj.
I think if you ask me the next 5 years, anyone in any business, I think ONDC, right? Pick that up, guys. If you're not understanding that, any business out there needs to understand it. It's the UPI moment happening out there. And if as business guys, you don't collaborate, I think that's one line if I had to give you the next 5 years, that's a big trend out there.
All right, Amit.
One thing I think in MSME, the biggest challenge is legacy. She also spoke, most of the MSME business are legacy driven. Father, mother, then somebody else coming in, third person coming in. The biggest challenge is if those seniors are not anymore, how do you take decisions? How do you bring back that wisdom? And today's time, easily, something which is called as founder's mentality. At Soulflower, we have created our own bots, mine and Natasha, both the co-founders, where we are putting everyday decision in that bot, that how do we think, how do we do it? And might be after 2 years, 3 years, if any of my team member wants to don't want to talk to me and goes to Amit's bot, the chance is Amit's bot will reply the way Amit Sarda thinks. So that's how what we are doing it, and it's free. Chat GPT means we pay some subscription to that, but it is so easy to do. So I think that is where everybody has to think. Sometimes you have to take things internal, like how he spoke about making a great bot, but you also have to think what is that you can do internal to internalize digital transformation. So that's what I think
I have to say that's a brilliant use of ChatGPT,
so we have been doing
really
that.
unheard of.
Thank you.
Thank you.
One thing that I would talk about is not so much what you should be prepared for, but what you should be looking forward to. I think over the next 5 to 10 years, be prepared or look forward to everything that you do from a regulatory standpoint or a government standpoint actually going digital. We've been in payments, we're a highly regulated industry. And I think we've been the beneficiary of seeing how the government has been so proactive in taking steps. We talked about UPI, we are talking about ONDC. I think it's not just that. I think even the regulations, a bunch of things on the government side, there is a lot of focus on things getting easier, getting digital. So if you're MSMEs and if you believe that today, those who started 15, 20 years ago, you have no idea the challenges that they faced. You guys are in a much better state. Be prepared for your competitors who are going to come in the next 5 to 10 years. They're going to find it even easier, right? So I think that's the thing to look out for.
All right, Janvi.
I think right now, I would say that for legacy retail first brands like us, we need to be prepared to have an omni-channel presence, where it is all about convenience. You need your Bakarwadi in 10 minutes, so I have to be there on Blinkit. So here, for brands like us, it's very important for us to collaborate with all the aggregators that are there and make sure that we have an omni-channel presence. Otherwise, we'll not survive.
Absolutely, very well put. For the final words.
Yeah, no, so we're looking at sort of digital emerging trends, Maharashtra in 5 to 10 years, right? Now, Maharashtra has always been known for being the financial capital. That means high GDP for people to purchase. It's amazing that we have the Global FinTech Fest in Mumbai, and I mean, every investor or whatever connector is there, right? Everybody is like it's like Diwali, it's like Christmas of New York, right? You talk to any banker, they say December last week, no work. Yeah. If all of that is there, I think Maharashtra will have a lot of the digital plus fintech evolutions happening from here, right? So what is sandbox, etc. for phone pays of the business that RBI and all have created, I think a lot more will be created for customers and MSMEs here.
All right, on that very valuable note, I'll have to wrap up our conversation. Thank you so much, panelists, once again, and for your insightful discussion, and thank you for being a fabulous audience as well.
Forbes India Small Business Summit, presented by PhonePe Payment Gateway.